This is State versus Travion Winfrey, accused of 2 counts of battery from October 31st of this year. Mr. Winfrey, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean.
7 total.
Okay.
2023 FTA, 2022 suspended license no law, 2019 FTA, and 2019 drug possession. I think you got a hold out of Sandy Spring.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident that occurred on the 31st at 800 West Marietta Street. That's the Metro Point Lofts. Victim in this case, her name is Anya Roth. She reported that she'd been dating the defendant for a short period of time, and there at the location, they argued because she declined to engage in a sexual activity with him. He struck her multiple times with a closed fist. She was observed to have a bloody nose and bruising on her face, and she was transported to the hospital, Your Honor. The defendant has history out of Florida and Georgia, and it does look like he's got a warrant out of Sandy Springs. We spoke to Mrs. Roth today. She reported being in fear of the defendant. She's unable to attend Zoom, but she's requested no contact. We'd ask for a $2,000 surety, Your Honor. No contact with Mrs. Anya Roth. Stay away from wherever she resides, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond.
Okay. Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, my client is 29. He went through part of the 11th grade in Alpharetta High School. He works full-time at a retail store in Decatur and part-time at a restaurant in Decatur. He was quite industrious. Before that, he did landscaping and worked for temporary agencies. I should point out, if this is accurate, if I caught that correctly, he told me that none of his priors were involving any violence, that they had to do with marijuana, something else, and the traffic offenses. And I believe he may be correct in that. He has a stable address, will get his mail. Under these circumstances, we would ask the court to consider a signature bond or a very low surety bond.
All right.
Thank you.
Does your client reside at the Metro Point Lofts?
Your Honor, we had a lot of electronic problems today, and I didn't check his address. I'm sorry.
I have a I can't remember now, but it was not. It was a Duluth address. Is that correct? Okay.
We can ask him directly. We can ask him directly.
He just nodded his head with regards to the Duluth.
Cool. Very good. Thank you.
It's $1,000 surety on each count. Unfortunately, due to his prior FTAs under the new law, he does not qualify for a signature bond. No further contact with Anya Roth. Stay away from 800 West Peachtree Street at the Metro Point Lofts. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Mr. Winfrey, this is an active case against you. Please make sure that you report to court when summoned and that you maintain a current address with the court at all times. Your next court date is going to be November 14th at 9 a.m. If you do bond out, like I said, make sure to come back to court when summoned. And no contact with Anya Roth means staying 200 yards away from her and not communicating with her in any way, form, or manner. Thank you. ACDC, who do we have?
Number 14, Leftwich.
That's also me, Your Honor.
All right. Okay. Ebony Leftwich is accused of theft by shoplifting from October 30th, 2024. Ms. Leftwich, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
2022 simple battery DV, 2018 FTA, 2016 shoplifting conviction, 2015 shoplifting conviction. Guy has a Gwinnett hold and should have went to felony earlier for felony shoplifting. That's it.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm just going to go back to Mr. Winfrey's case one more time. Ms. Ms. Lois, I'm not sure, Ms. Champion, on Mr. Travion Winfrey on the $2,000 bond, if he makes bond, is the release to the Sandy Springs hold.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, going back to Ms. Lethbridge, Ms. Allen, anything to add?
Thank you, Your Honor. The defendant was arrested yesterday on the 31st. It's reported that yesterday between 2 and 6 p.m. at 7300 North Point Parkway in Alpharetta, loss prevention at the Ulta makeup and cosmetic store there reported that he observed the defendant shopping in the location and placed a bottle of perfume under her cardigan. She then went through the checkout, paid for some items, but continued to keep that one item under her cardigan and then leave all points of sale and the store without paying for it. She was recognized as someone as a former employee of the location. Surveillance was provided that showed the theft occurring. The value of the perfume specifically that she took is $165. The defendant has criminal history out of West Virginia as well as Georgia. That includes many arrests for shoplifting and convictions from 2015. In Georgia, a conviction from 2016, simple battery here in 2022, and an open felony shoplifting from the same area in Alpharetta that she should have been on the docket for today. I think that was the Sunglasses Hut for felony level, just based on the value, not criminal history. We're asking for $1,000 surety, Your Honor. Stay away from the location there, the Ulta at 7300 North Point Parkway in Alpharetta, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons.
Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, my client is 42 years old. She has some college, Mountain State. Let's see, is that university? It's a college in Beckley, West Virginia. Your Honor, she has had jobs here in Atlanta in pediatrics, medical assistants for the last 8 years, worked as an administrative assistant for an apartment complex for several years, even before the 8 years in the medical field. We'd ask the court to consider the lowest possible bond under the situation, whether that be a signature bond or the $1,000 surety bond that the state has mentioned.
Bond says $1,000. It is a surety bond with a release to Gwinnett County hold only, to stay away from the Ulta store in Alpharetta, Georgia. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. Thank you. And next court date is November 14.
Go to position number 10, Mr. Griffin.
Evan Griffin is accused of simple battery, family violence, and criminal trespass from May 8th of last year. Accusations 24 CR 7436G. Mr. Griffin, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is that Ms. Levine?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
21. Got an open identity fraud out of the cab, financial transaction card fraud, possess, display, false identification, forgery in the first degree. Got an open ag assault out of the cab, open simple assault in state court. Open suspended license, fleeing an officer, theft by receiving in state court. On probation in Gwinnett for forgery in the first and second degree. 2024 probation, 2022 FTA. 2021, 2020 probation, 2018 FTA, 2017 disorderly conduct conviction, 2017 FTA, and a 27.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Ms. Mulcahy?
Yes, Your Honor. The victim in this case is Kirsten Owens. I have that the incident location is 3464 Roxborough Road Northeast in Atlanta. The parties were having a verbal altercation regarding the defendant not doing the minor child's hair when the victim came to pick up the minor child. During the argument, the defendant pushed the victim, which caused pain to her shoulder. The victim stated that she believed her shoulder had been knocked out of place, but officers did not note any visible injuries. When the defendant pushed the victim, he also broke her necklace. The defendant also had a battery, family violence, and battery arrest from 2022 that we unfortunately had to NOD due to the statute of limitations. that battery, family violence, and battery involved a different victim. Our office has had a chance to speak with Ms. Owens, who says her and the defendant are no longer in a relationship. They do share that one child and they don't live together. She did confirm the events in the warrant, says she does not want to press charges, says that they have moved past this incident, have been in contact with each other, and there has been no violence. She states that she is not in fear of the defendant and still wants to continue contact. The state's recommendation is going to be based partly on the defendant's history, which includes some FTAs. So there's a risk that he will be a flight risk. There's also a risk that he will reoffend, and he does, of course, have some violent arrests in that history. We are recommending a $1,500 surety bond on the simple battery, a $1,000 surety bond on the criminal trespass, that he have no further contact with this victim, that he have no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. If the court is inclined to grant no further violent contact with the victim, we would ask that the court order an FBIP.
All right.
I would ask the court to sound for Ms. Kirsten Owens at this time.
Ms. Kirsten Owens Zabrinski.
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Would you like to contribute to the proceedings?
Everything that she said was factual. I don't fear of him at all. And if he was released today, I would just want to move forward with co-parenting our 6-year-old son.
Is there a court order with regards to parenting?
No, there isn't.
Okay, thank you. Ms.
No
Levine,
problem.
anything to add?
Morning, Your Honor. I would just like to add that I've also spoken to Ms. Owens. It seems like both parties, Mr. Griffin especially, is looking forward to being there for his son, Caden, who's 6 years old. I would ask that, I think it's just going to be difficult for these two to have no contact since they share a child. And it seems like that's a big reason why we want him out, is so that he can be a parent.
I'll help him out with that. Okay. On the simple battery is going to be a $1,500 surety bond. On the criminal trespass is going to be a $1,500 signature bond through pretrial services level 3. And in addition to reporting to pretrial once a month, he will enroll in a domestic violence intervention program within 30 days of release. This is a 26-week program that he would need to attend. This is a condition of bond and not a condition of the case adjudication. And he would need to attend all 26 weeks of classes at his expense without any skipping. He will file a legitimation action in order to establish a court order for visitation, custody, and child support with regards to the child that he shares with Ms. Kristen Owen-Sabinski. And any visitation at the present time will then be dictated by the legitimation case as to whether it's going to be supervised visitation or whether it's going to be visitation on their own accord. But in either event, he's to have no violent contact with Kristen Owens, and he's to have contact with the child in question only through a court-ordered parenting plan. Next court date is going to be November. Oh, excuse me, I can't do a signature bond. He's got those FTAs.
Your Honor,
Okay.
my understanding was that the FTA was cleared. In which case does he have an
I've got a
FTA?
2020. No, it's not a question of it being clear. It's a question of a bench warrant having been issued. So he doesn't qualify. Well, that is to the wisdom of the legislature. So the bond is going to be a $3,000 surety bond. And he'll still be required to do a domestic violence intervention program and file a legitimation action. Next court date is going to be November 14th. And also, did someone say he had a hold? I don't think he had a hold. So we're good. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So this is a $3,000 surety.
And that concludes my business today. May I be excused?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And this ACDC, who do we have?
Number 17, Mamar.
This is State versus Nikki Mamar, accused of theft by shoplifting from September 20th of this year. A case number is 24 CR 7445J. Ms. Mamar, you have been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
I thought we sent this up yesterday. Hold on.
This was supposed to be a felony
Correct.
transfer based on the criminal history of this young lady. She's got a felony case in Superior Court now and has at least 3 prior shoplifting convictions, but the DA has been unresponsive.
Oh,
We went ahead and filed the case.
so yeah, Judge, she just gave you the history. So yeah, she got a lot of open cases too.
Okay.
Shopliftings.
Mr. McLean, anything to add?
Yes, Your Honor. My client has had some oppression in her life, and she has been obtaining, not just seeking, but obtaining the services of certain advocacy organizations in town. And we hope that that's going to help her with those matters. She is a graduate of Lassiter High School in Cobb County. She has worked at a restaurant for a year and a half. For 4 years, she worked as a sales rep for advertising for a radio system before that. And she has recently applied for a job which looks promising as an administrative assistant at a local car dealership, a large one. We would ask the court to consider the lowest possible bond. I've spoken to some Findling in our office about helping her as well. Her family is not able to help her with the bond at this time, so the lowest bond possible. Whatever she's eligible for, that's what we're asking for, Your Honor, whether it's signature bond or a low surety bond. Thank you.
Well, she's got an FTA in case 21 CR 003440J. And she's got a DeKalb County hold as well. So, and the FTA has a $1,000 cash bond only that's been set by the judge in which she did not appear, whose court she done. On the present case, her bond is going to be set at $1,000 surety. And it's going to be a stay away from all target stores, including the incident location, no illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. And we're going to reset both cases to November 14th. So, Ms. Champion, this would be the present case as well as the 21 CR case.
Can you give me that number again, Your Honor?
Sure. 21 CR 003440J. That's a $1,000 cash bond in that case.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And Judge, you said it's $1,000 good bond or is it cash bond?
Good bond in the new case.
And what position was that?
I'm sorry?
What position was that?
That was position 17.
We can go to position number 24, Ms. Williams.
All right. Mr. McLean, just FYI, it was a failure to appear before Judge Besson for a jury trial on September 10th, 2024.
Right, Ms. Findling, I think, no, that wasn't Findling's case, but yes, Your Honor, we are kind of aware of that history. What was the last calling? Miss Who, the number what?
Quorum 2?
24.
Number 24. Who is that?
Williams.
Williams.
This
Very good.
is
Denisha Williams.
Danisha Williams. This is Miss Danisha Williams, accusation 24 CR 7444C, accused of cruelty in the 3rd degree, 2 counts of battery, family violence, and reckless conduct from September 21st, 2024. Ms. Williams, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. Michael McLean. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Second. Last arrest was November 2023. Ag assault, trespass, damage. That's 23 CP 223502. That's still open.
Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This incident occurred in September at the location 4521 Harbor Lakes. That's in Fairburn. The defendant was living there with her sister, who's the victim in this case. Her name is Deja, and that's spelled Dazah, last name Williams. Police were called to that location at about 11:30 p.m., September the 21st, And there they encountered the victim, who had a bloody nose and visible swelling to her eye. She reported that her sister had come home that evening intoxicated and argued with her boyfriend. The victim, Mrs. Williams, only knew this gentleman as Tay. That during their argument, she allowed her sister to use her cell phone. As the argument got more violent, she decided, the victim, Mrs. Deja Williams, she was going to retreat into the bedroom there with her child, who is under the age of 2. His initials are TW. She went into her bedroom and closed the door. Shortly thereafter, her sister, the defendant, came into the bedroom and assaulted her as she held her child. She hit her in the face with her closed fist multiple times. The victim was able to get outside and call 911, but the defendant followed her and continued this assault that was corroborated by witnesses who are neighbors, reported seeing the assault continue outside. Victim was treated by EMS on scene, but the defendant and her boyfriend had fled on foot. She is on bond for an assault on the father of her child. His name is Ramon Mitchell. That is an incident from February of 2023. She was given a bond in that case in, I believe, November of 2023. So less than a year ago, just about. We'd ask for a $3,000 cash bond, Your Honor. No contact with Mrs. Deja Williams. Stay away from the location where she lives, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. We have been in touch with Mrs. Williams. It's been since September, so we've had maybe a month. She reports that, of course, they're no longer living together and that she moved out. So the stay away would not be from the location where this incident occurred but from wherever the victim currently lives. The victim reports this is not their first altercation. The defendant has been violent with her in the past, but she'd never called police before. She does claim that she's not in fear of her sister, but based on the facts of this case and her open aggravated assault, there's a concern for the safety of a child in the same location as this defendant, as well as her sister. So that's why we're asking for no contact, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. McLean?
Your
Down for
Honor,
Ms. Williams, just in case.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
Deja Williams? Mr. McLean?
thank you. My 30-year-old client has been taking classes from an organization in Morrow, Georgia, for medical assistance training. UEI, I think the U might stand for Universal, but I know the EI stands for Educational Institute. She has a job, Your Honor, she's worked at for 8 or 9 years, a very steady job at Pro Logistics at Oakley Industrial in Union City. She operates a forklift. And before that, she has done other work. But that's 8 or 9 years of a lengthy and stable job. With her stable habits, she will appear for court and answer to the charges, and she asked the court to consider the lowest bond possible, whether that be a signature bond or a low surety bond, Your Honor.
All right. And Miss Allen, you indicated that the victim no longer lives at Harbor Lakes?
That's what she told us. She said that she moved out of the residence and resides in another state.
Okay. With regards to the cruelty charge, that's going to be $1,000. The count 1 on battery family violence is $1,500. The reckless conduct is $1,000. Count 2 on battery family violence is $1,500. That's 3, 4, 5. That's a $5,000 surety bond. No further contact with Deja Williams and her children, I guess Miss Deja Williams' children, to stay away from wherever Miss Williams the sister Williams happens to be. If Miss Deja Williams has vacated 4521 Harbor Lakes in Fairburn, then the defendant can return to that property. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. And her next court date is November 14th, excuse me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 19, Paige.
Alicia Page is accused of battery family violence from July 14th, 2024. Ms. Page, you've been advised of your rights. Your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean. And your accusation number is 24 CR 7429J. Any prize, Mr. Howard?
Second, 2023 Newton County Battery DV. That's open.
Your Honor, this incident did occur in July. Police were called in Fairburn to 7 Victoria Drive. We've requested a supplemental warrant from the agency. It appears that the narrative in the warrant compared to the police report is a little confusing. However, the statutory language in the warrant matches the police report information and includes further facts. So police were called to 7 Victoria Drive in Fairburn on the 14th of July at about 3 in the afternoon. There, they spoke to the victim, Mr. Devontae Thornton, who reported that he shares a child with the defendant, and that's his location, I believe. Because there'd been a call history at that location, police were aware of the individuals involved and at that scene. Mr. Thornton reported that he and the young woman in front of you, they share a child. At that time, it was a 5-month-old. Reported that she had assaulted him. He was seen to have fresh bloody scratches that were swollen on his chest and his arms. And he reported that she had left the location. Her father had come and pick her up at that point. A warrant was obtained. It is noted she's got to open battery family violence out of Newton County. We did speak to Mr. Thornton today. He reports that he and the defendant are no longer in a relationship, but they do share that child. And he says he has no memory of this whatsoever. We're asking for $1,000 surety, Your Honor, no violent contact at all, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond. Thank you. If you
I see a Devontae Thornton on Zoom. I see a Sheila Thornton on Zoom. Any of you want to contribute to this proceeding? This is the time to unmute and start your video. Right, Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, in arguing for the possibility of a signature bond as opposed to the $1,000 surety bond the state has just mentioned, which of course is the lowest one we ever asked for in the surety area, so we appreciate that. Arguments in her favor for the idea of something different would be the fact that she went to high school in Covington, is working on her GED right now, so she's trying to further her education. She works for UPS. That's a seasonal job. She also is a hairstylist and does that on the weekends, but the seasonal job is 7 a.m. to some ungodly hour, and she's working very, very hard. She does realize the seriousness of this, and she's also, let's see, working at Stonecrest. So with all those factors, and she's of course a local, I don't see any problems in her making court. We'd ask the court to consider as low a bond as possible.
All right. On the battery family violence, yes, I do realize she's got another open DV case. I'm not sure who's involved in that, whether it's Mr. Thornton as well. But with regards to this matter, this is going to be a 3,500 signature bond through pretrial services, level 2. She'll be required to do a domestic violence intervention program within 30 days of being released. There shall be only third-party transfer of the child or children that she shares with Mr. Devontae Thornton. And the reason why this is only going to be a third-party transfer, because she's not allowed to have any contact with Devontae Thornton. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Ms. Page, you shall update the court with your mailing address within 30 days in writing once you're released. And within 30 days, you have to enroll in a domestic violence program and show proof that you are attending your classes diligently. Thank you.
Can I please talk, please?
You have a right to remain silent. Anything you choose to say, your statements can and will be used against you.
Okay, so
there's really, Ms. Page, do you understand that you got a signature bond? Do you understand that?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
But I was asking regarding something.
The other details will be pretty much procedural that we can cover in another location.
Okay.
We do ask our clients to remain silent. Thank you.
This per judge too.
Yes, per judge. Thank you.
Next, we're gonna
I'm sorry, Your Honor, did you order a stay away?
I don't think she lives at that location, so she would need to, she needs to stay away from 7 Victoria Drive. And also have no contact with Devontae Thornton. Third-party transfers permitted.
Thank you.
Courtroom 2, who do we have?
position number 12, Ms. Howard.
This is Alea Ann Howard, accused of simple battery from October 31st of this year, accusation 24 CR 7440G.
We're moving to null pros that, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Howard, the prosecutor is going to dismiss this charge and you'll be released within 24 hours. Thank you. ACDC, do we have another case?
I'm sorry, Judge, I didn't hear you.
Oh, that
the
case was
Spanish
dismissed?
interpreter, yes.
Yeah, next case?
I do see that we have the Spanish interpreter. We can do position number 7, Escobar.
Is our Spanish interpreter present?
Yes, I see her on the Zoom.
Well, I haven't interviewed the client.
Yes,
so
Your
that-
Honor, I'm
That's
here.
what I need to do is place them in a breakout.
Yes, thank you, Judge.
This courtroom 1 is coming on now, Judge. I don't know if that person's in that courtroom or not. If they are, I'll put them in there and who Mr. Cook needs to go in there.
Yes. Thank you.
All right,
Okay,
Deputy
they're in the courtroom.
Francois?
I'll get ready to put you in the breakout room.
okay. Who do we have next to you?
I'm sorry, Judge, can you please repeat that?
Who do you have seated next to you?
This is number 7, Escobar. She's the Spanish interpreter case.
Okay, we'll have to wait until she goes into and was that Mr. McLean's client?
That's my client, Your Honor.
Do you need
Keep
to speak, do you need to speak to to Ms. Escobar? All right, I guess Mr. ACDC, you're going into a breakout with the interpreter.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
Courtroom 2, who's next? We need Mr. McLean's clients, since Mr. Cook is in a breakout.
Also, at some point, I told that I'll need an interpreter for Ortiz.
Yes, as soon as Mr. Cook is, I'm assuming the interpreter is in the breakout. Is that correct, Ms. Lewis?
That's correct, Judge. I think that's Mr. Cook's client. Now, Mr. McLean's claim he has an interpreter too, but I can't put everybody in ACDC.
Oh, no, I understand.
Mhm.
I'm just reminding.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I think Mr. Cook client is in ACDC and Mr. McLean was in courtroom 1. That Mr. Ortiz is Mr. McLean client and Ms. Escobar is Mr. Cook client.
That's correct.
ACDC, we'll need to address Ms. Escobar later when there are other folks not around because she needs to be in a private conversation with her attorney.
Okay, Judge, that's fine. Okay, go ahead, I have a seat. Are you ready?
Either courtroom 2 or ACDC, either one, whoever beats y'all to the chair, I'll take the next case.
Go to position number 23, Ms. Thomas.
23, okay. Damon Thomas?
Yes.
Mr.
Your
Thomas?
Honor, if I may, just for a moment, Mr. Ortiz is in courtroom 1. That's Mr. McLean's client. And then I have Miss Escobar. She's at ACDC right now. They both need interpretation.
So, no, Mr. Thomas, you stay there. You stay there. All right. Ms. Lewis, is courtroom 1 and the interpreter in the breakout?
They just came out, so Mr. McLean needs to go in there with them?
Not yet,
Not yet, okay.
not yet. The interpreter in courtroom 1 are going to the breakout, and as soon as Mr. McLean's done with this case, I'll put him in the breakout with that case.
Okay.
Mr. Cook, you need to wait until Ms. Escobar is in a private area, because
Yes.
otherwise you'll be talking to her in front of everybody else in ACDC.
Yes,
Okay.
Your Honor.
All
Your
right.
Honor, we could always do Ms. McLeod's case because she does have one in courtroom 2.
And I'll be right with her. Thank you. Damon Thomas is accused of theft by taking from September 22nd, 2024. Accusation 24 CR 7442J. He's been advised of his rights and his attorney is Mr. McLean. Mr. Howard, any priors?
Didn't we have him last week?
Yeah, he's on bond for an October the 14th theft. So the theft in front of you today, Your Honor, actually occurred earlier in time. So
Okay.
arguably, he's not in violation of that bond.
Oh,
All right.
you want to get a history? You want me to give it?
No, just give me how many cycles.
I don't even have him. I just took the notes from last week.
Okay.
He got to open PI though.
That's what
PI and Superior Court. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I got it.
All right.
Thank you. Miss Allen, was this warrant in existence at the time we addressed this case the last time?
You know, I'm not sure, but I know that both the case references the investigation in the other case. The case where he was in front of the court October the 14th is from Georgia State. And so is this one. And so I believe the investigation, the defendant identified himself basically as the perpetrator in the case in front of you when he was arrested on October the 14th. So it was under investigation. Officers on the 14th of October showed him the bolo from the September the 22nd incident, and he identified himself saying, yeah, that's me, in the photograph of him taking an e-scooter from Iraq there at a different location.
All right. This is going to be a $500 signature bond through the jail. Stay away from all GSU property.
Your Honor, one other thing, he's got an open case. He was just sentenced on August the 28th of 2024 for theft by taking in 22 CR 006875Y.
Yeah, I see that. But right now he's got a $500 bond on criminal attempt to commit a misdemeanor and misdemeanor. Is that the one he took a plea?
No, he took a
plea. I see he's already got a $500 bond.
So when he was here last week, he was out on pretrial. So those bonds were surrendered. That's why he got some good bonds you'll see besides this charge.
I see. Good heavens.
Basically, he should have been served with this warrant while in jail. He was at, I believe, SAP and then decided to further notice his case to trial and was released and picked up on this warrant. So he's got two cases from Georgia State. We're not arguing he's in violation of the bond from the 14th of October, but he is under sentence and in violation of his probation for that 22 case. And I believe he was arrested right before then for another case.
Okay. So just for purposes of this new case, Mr. Damon Thomas, you've got a new warrant for a theft from September 22nd, 2024. Do you understand? Okay.
Yes.
And your bond for that case from September 2024 is going to be $500 signature bond through the jail, and you're to stay away from all Georgia State property. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. You have also another open case, 24 CR 007066J, where you received a $1,000 surety bond from Judge Morrow on October 15th. Do you recall?
Yes.
And you are required to stay away from all Georgia Tech property.
Yes.
And right now, that's the status of your two open cases.
Yes.
With the State Court of Fulton County.
Yes.
Okay. For this particular case, the one you received a signature bond through the jail, I'm going to reset it to November 14th in case you do not make bond on the Georgia Tech case.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
And Ms. Champion, we're going to reset this case, the new one ending in 7442, along with the 24 CR 007066J to the SAP calendar on November 14th.
Yes, ma'am.
He had already filed a waiver of arraignment in the Georgia Tech case. That's the way I'm going to refer to them. So we're just going to address both of them at the next SAP calendar.
Thank you, Your
All right,
Honor.
Mr.
I'm sorry
McLean?
that was confusing.
That's fine. I did discuss the scooter case with him.
All right. All right. Now, Mr. McLean, you're going to go into a breakout with Mr. Ortiz and your Spanish interpreter. Mr. Ortiz is in courtroom 1.
McLean is your case? Oh.
Okay. Do we have Miss McLeod's case?
Yes, Your Honor, that's position number 13, Mr. Naughton.
All right. And Miss McLeod, are you ready to address your case, or would you like to speak with your client?
No, Your Honor, I'm ready. I've already spoken with Mr. Knowlton.
Okay. Kelvin Knowlton is accused of criminal trespass causing damage to property from September 16th, 2024. His case number is 24 CR 7449G. Mr. Knowlton, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Ms. Maureen McLeod. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
11. Last arrest was in July for hindering person from making 911 calls, simple battery, criminal trespass. That's out of Cobb County. 2017 battery DV dismissed. 2016 battery DV no-low. 2015 battery DV not presented to grand jury, and a 2003 CWAC conviction.
All right. Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident from September the 16th. At about 2 p.m., police were called to 2410 Benjamin E. Mays Drive, Southwest. The victim in this case is Tanya Knowlton. She is the estranged wife of the defendant. They are still currently married, although they live in separate locations and are no longer together. She called police and reported that the defendant became upset when she was not available to him by phone. He came to her house, and when she wouldn't answer the door, he kicked it in. The damage to the door frame was seen by police. She ran and locked herself in her bedroom with her children, and the defendant damaged that door as well. Her children, Isaac and Sadie, were witnesses to the incident, and the defendant was identified by his wife. They have multiple prior cases together, Your Honor. The last arguably conviction related to a battery or violence against her was from 2016. The defendant entered a no-low plea. We spoke to Mrs. Knowlton. She reports that she's moved out of state, but she is asking for no contact. She reports that there's an ongoing issue with the defendant, as well as multiple cases in the past. We're asking for a $2,000 surety. He was just arrested in July for similar instances, battery, hindering a 911 call. We'd ask for no contact with his wife, Tanya Knowlton, that's Knolton, and stay away from wherever she may live or work. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond. Thank you.
Ms. McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 43 years old. He is gainfully employed, he tells me, as a mechanic with Norfolk Southern. He is supporting 4 children, 4 minor children, Your Honor. He did tell me that his wife and the children are currently in Florida. He tells me that he is still supporting them. And if he does not get out of jail, he will lose his job. I did ask him if he had anyone who would be able to post his bond for him in the event that he did not receive a signature bond. And he told me that unfortunately he doesn't have anyone that he can call to post bond for him. So I would ask the court to take that into consideration in setting a bond for him. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Bond is set at $1,500. It is a surety bond. No contact with Tanya Knowlton. No contact with the minors IB and SL. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. And the next court date is November 14th. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. And that concludes my business before the court today. May I be excused?
Yes, Ms. McLeod. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. The same to you, Judge.
ACDC, who do we have?
Judge, the remaining cases that I have, they're for McLean.
Okay. As soon as he comes out, we'll be able to address that. Mr. Cook, do you have any cases in courtroom 2? Mr. Keith Cook?
Your Honor, I believe I have several.
Okay, let's begin with the gentleman in the red shirt. Who do we have? Or
I'm sorry,
it's okay.
it's Cook and McLean. If it's Mr. Cook, we'll go with position number 4, Ms. Calhoun.
Okay. This is State versus Janaya Deja Calhoun, case 24CR7430Y. Ms. Calhoun has been accused of simple assault, family violence, willful obstruction of an officer, and criminal trespass from October 31st of this year. Ms. Calhoun, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
No.
Ms. Mukeke?
Yes, Your Honor. The victim in this case is Ms. Christmas Williams, who is the defendant's mother. The incident location is 1065 Glen Drive in Fairborn. The victim had asked her daughter to turn off the water in the toilet when the defendant began to yell at her. The victim was concerned that the defendant was having an MH episode, so she began to use her phone to call medical personnel. The defendant then grabbed the victim's phone and threw it. The victim, once she got her phone back, called the police because she no longer wanted the defendant in the home. The victim did show officers paperwork confirming the defendant's MH diagnosis, and when officers tried to arrest the defendant, she lowered herself to the ground and refused to stand up or walk, and then she also refused to enter the police vehicle. Our office has had a chance to speak with the defendant's mother, Ms. Williams, who states that the defendant has been off her medication for a few weeks, and she's currently in a state of unwellness. She only called the police because she wanted the defendant to go to the hospital. She never wanted the defendant to go to jail. She says the defendant was never physically violent towards her. She only took the phone out of her hand. She's not in fear, wants the defendant to just get back on her proper treatment, and wants to continue contact and for the defendant to return to the residence. Our recommendation at this time will be a signature bond through pretrial services, that the defendant have no further violent contact with her mother, Christmas Williams. It appears as though the defendant already has an MH plan in place. She's just not following that. So we would just ask that she remain compliant with MH treatment plans that are in place, and also take any medications that have been prescribed to her. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. And if we could please sound for the victim, Miss Christmas Williams.
Ms.
I'm
Williams?
here.
Right.
Yes, thank
Raise your
you.
right hand.
Right hand.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
Who would be responsible? How old is Janaya?
Janaya, she's 23 years old.
Okay. And does she travel to seek medical treatment on her own?
Yes, and sometimes I go with her. She sees medical health care.
No, I don't want you to name her providers. I want to keep that confidential, but I just need to know, does she go voluntarily on her own, or do you have to take her?
Sometimes she goes by herself, sometimes I go with her.
Okay. Thank you. And Ms. Williams, you don't mind having her back in the home?
No, I don't mind.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Cook, anything else to add?
No objection to the state's recommendation, Your Honor.
Okay. On the simple assault, that's going to be 1,500. On the willful obstruction is going to be 1,000, and the criminal trespass is going to be 500. The total bond is going to be 3,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services level 1. She's to have no further violent contact with Christmas Williams. She may return to the family home. If she changes her address, she'll need to update the court with her change of address in writing within 30 days of moving to a new location. Within 7 days of being released, Ms. Calhoun is to get an MH evaluation or schedule her first appointment with her MH healthcare provider. She must be compliant with all treatment and all medication. Failure to comply can result in being arrested again and a revocation of her bond. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Thank you. Is Mr. McLean done yet? No? We might want to send him a message that we're waiting on him, please. Thank you. Courtroom 2, who do we have?
Number 8, Mr. Favors.
This is State versus Dimitri Favors, accused of obstruction of a police officer, misdemeanor possession of marijuana, hit and run, failure of the driver to return to the scene of the accident, and driving while license suspended or revoked from October 31st, 2024, under accusation 24 CR 7437H. Mr. Favors, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Cook. Any priors?
11. 2023 ag assault, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, possession of a firearm during a commission, kidnapping, armed robbery. That's 23 CP 221138. That's a 10% pretrial bond. On probation for ag assault, 17 SC 153715. 2023 probation, 2022 simple battery DV dismissed, 2012 FTA, 2010 simple battery conviction.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Okay.
Yes, Your Honor. Officers were attempting to conduct a traffic stop due to the defendant running a stop sign. When they turned on their emergency lights, he refused to stop. In his attempt to flee in his vehicle from officers, he struck another vehicle belonging to a Mr. Dwight George. After striking the vehicle, the defendant then abandoned the vehicle he was in and began to flee on foot. Officers eventually found the defendant hiding in a bush. He then tried to deny the fact that he was driving and said, quote, he was just sitting on his porch smoking dope and he had just returned from the liquor store. Officers found 3.5 grams of marijuana in the vehicle, and the defendant also had a suspended license. The recommendation is going to be based, of course, on the defendant's criminal history and the facts of this case, which show that he is a danger to the community, that he does have a risk to reoffend, and that he could potentially be a flight risk given that he does have an FTA, and also the fact that he was attempting to flee from officers in this case. The state's recommendation is a $1,500 surety bond on the willful obstruction, a $1,000 surety bond on the hit and run, a $500 surety bond on the driving while license suspended or revoked, a $500 surety bond on the possession of marijuana, no driving, no illegal drugs, weapons, or alcohol, no further contact with Mr. Dwight George, who was the victim of the hit and run. I would ask the court to sound for Mr. Dwight George. I don't believe he is on here, but just out of an abundance of caution.
Mr. Dwight George. All right, Mr. Cook.
Yes, Your Honor, my client is 31 years old. He tells me he's in training at Waffle House, not yet drawing a pay, so he has a very modest income. We would hope the court would keep that in mind when it sets the bond. We understand the history. So beyond that, we would simply leave it in the court's discretion.
Okay. Pursuant to this new arrest, I guess his the 10% option in his felony case is going to be revoked or amended to a surety bond. So he's going to have to address that. But in the meantime, with regards to this case, on the willful obstruction, that's a $1,500 surety. On the misdemeanor possession of marijuana, that's a $500 signature bond to the jail. On the hit and run, that's a $1,000 surety. And on the driving while license suspended or revoked, that's going to be a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial services, level 2. Mr. Favors, you shall report, once you pay off the portion of the bond that you're required to pay, then you have to report to pretrial once every 2 weeks. You're not to consume any illegal drugs, including marijuana, and you're not to consume any alcohol. You will be random screened for alcohol and or illegal drugs, and no driving unless you have a valid driver's license, adequate insurance, and proper registration. You're also to stay away and have no contact with Dwight George. So that's going to be 25, 3, that's going to be a $6,000 split bond. Next court date is November 14.
Your Honor, how much of that was the surety? I'm sorry.
The surety part, willful obstruction, is $1,500 surety. Misdemeanor possession of marijuana is a 500 signature bond through the jail. Hit and run is a $1,000 surety. And then the driving while license suspended or revoked is a 3,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2. No drinking, no drugs, random screens, and no driving. And unfortunately, his 10% bond arrangement with the felony case will be amended to a total surety bond. So he'll have to make the bond payment on that portion as well.
He already this prejudice too, since he already out on pretrial.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Favors?
The first bond I paid, for my first felony case, I gotta pay it again.
Well, you got a 10% option because the rest of it was on pretrial. But due to this new arrest, that 10% option is revoked. So you have to bond out on whatever you did not pay.
How much that is? How much is that?
I don't know, sir. What was the bond from your felony case?
I don't know.
I don't know whether it was 7,000 on each count. So you'll have to ask your defense attorney in your felony case, how much did you pay and how much you still owe?
So what I gotta pay them, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
That's what happens when you get arrested again. Your signature bond portion gets revoked. That's in 23 CP 221-138, I believe. Thank you.
Judge, going back to position 19, Ms. Page, she does have a question about her stay away.
Ms. Page.
Number 19, Page.
Yeah, she's required to stay away from 7 Victoria Drive. I believe that's where the father of the children live.
We stay together now.
Then you need to vacate the property and update the court with your new address. You cannot live with him.
Can I say something? I understand that now.
Your attorney is not present. That's why I can't let you speak. Anything else? All right, thank you.
But she's not gonna let you talk because
your attorney needs to be present. Courtroom 2, next case, please. Ms. Champion or Ms. Lewis, could you let Mr. McLean know that we are ready to address this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Number 6, Mr. Creasy.
6, okay.
That's also Mr. McLean's case. So
I
have several more in courtroom 2, I believe. So.
All right, who do we have now?
My bad, Your Honor. That indicated it was Cook's client, but we can go to position number 11, Mr. Helm. That's what y'all.
11.
Yeah.
Is that your client, Mr. Cook?
What's his name, Your Honor?
Dustin Helm.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Dustin Helm is accused of possession and use of a drug-related object from October 27, 2024. Accusation 24 CR 7439H. Mr. Helm, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney is going to be Mr. Cook. Any priors, Mr. Howard? Mr. Howard?
I'm sorry?
All right, who is this?
Dustin Helm, position 11.
23. You got to open meth in Superior Court.
Is that a new case?
23 SC 191-279.
191-271.
279. 23 SC 191-279.
Okay.
Got to open theft by receiving and theft by taking in DeKalb County. On probation for meth out of Gwinnett.
Ms. Mukaki, anything to add?
Yes, Your Honor. Just to put the facts of this case on the record, officers observed the defendant lighting a piece of tinfoil and using a long aluminum-colored pipe to inhale smoke from an unknown substance. When they made contact with the defendant, he advised that he had just swallowed an 8-ball of fentanyl. Officers called for an ambulance to administer Narcan, but the defendant refused. He then advised officers that the drug he was smoking was fentanyl. The state's recommendation, given the history, is a $500 surety bond, that he have a social worker visit to get some assistance, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
This is going to be a $500 signature bond through the jail, no alcohol and no drugs. Mr. Helm, make sure that you keep up with your open active cases. And if you continue to use drugs, you're just going to keep racking up these open cases or risk your life, whichever comes first. Thank you. Next case in courtroom 2 for Mr. Cook. And Ms. Lewis, you can close out the breakout room, please.
Your Honor, I'm not sure who is Mr. Cook's client.
Mr. Cook, would you want to name your next case?
Well, I don't have the calendar, so I'm not in position. I have a Kincaid.
Okay, let's go with that. Do you have Jeffrey Lucas?
I do not have Jeffrey. I do not have Jeffrey Lucas.
Okay, well, that's quite all right. Mr. McLean is back with Ms. Chansey.
Your Honor, I also have a Miss Escobar that needs to be in. Well, we're working that out with ACDC, I guess.
Yeah,
okay.
Correct. So, Ms. Chansey, do you solemnly swear the testimony you translate will be a true and accurate translation with no changes and I can't even speak now. Embellishments?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
Thank you. Okay. We are addressing position 18, State versus Omar Ortiz, accused of battery, family violence, and simple battery, family violence from June 20. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Estamos dirigiéndonos al caso de Omar Ortiz con cargos de golpes y lesiones, violencia familiar y golpes y lesiones simples, violencia familiar, ocurridos en el 29 de junio del 2024.
The case number is 24CR 7427E from June 29, 2024.
El número de caso es 24 CR 7427E con fecha de 29 de junio del 2024.
You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you.
Usted tiene el derecho a guardar silencio. Todo lo que diga acerca del caso pueden y serán usados en su contra.
You have a right to an attorney, and if you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you.
Usted tiene el derecho a tener un abogado y si no puede contratar a uno, se le indicará uno a través de un abogado público.
How many priors does he have, if any, Mr. Howard?
¿Cuántos tiene algún ciclo, señor Howard?
First.
Okay.
Este es el primero.
Miss Allen?
Thank
Señor
you.
Allen.
This is an incident from June the 29th of 2024.
Este es un incidente de junio 29, 2024.
Police responded to 660 Ralph McGill Boulevard.
La policía respondió al 660 de Ralph McGill Boulevard.
There they met with the victim, Yanira Arias.
Allí se encontraron con la víctima, Yanira Arias.
It's spelled Y-A-N-I-R-A.
Deletreado A-R-I-A-S.
She's on the Zoom, Your Honor.
Y está en la plataforma de Zoom, su señoría.
Mrs. Arias reported that she was grabbed by her hair in the back of her head and punched in the back of her head multiple times, that the defendant then pushed her, and this caused bruising and swelling that was visible to police on her right leg. She reported that they lived together. They argued because he wanted his adult children to come live with them.
La señora Arias informó que el acusado la tomó de su cabello, de la parte detrás de la cabeza, y le dio un puñetazo en múltiples veces y le causó amoretonamiento, inflamación que era visible cuando la policía llegó en la pierna izquierda. Ella informó que ellos vivían juntos y que estaban peleando porque él quiso que sus hijos adultos vinieran a vivir con ellos.
Warrants were taken out. The defendant had fled the scene.
Cuando se emitieron los arrestos, el acusado había huido del lugar del incidente.
We've been in contact with the victim today, and she's recanting.
Ella estamos estados en contacto con la víctima hoy y ella está repitiendo.
She says that she really slipped and fell while she was walking her dog, and that's how she was injured.
De que ella en realidad está comentando de que se resbaló y se cayó mientras estaba caminando con el perro.
And that she called the police because she's lonely and doesn't have a job.
Y que ella llamó a la policía porque está sola y no tiene un trabajo.
Your Honor, based on the fact that this is the first time the defendant has been arrested, we're asking for an SOB through pretrial. We'd ask for no violent contact and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. And if you'd sound for Señora Arias, please.
Su señoría, basados en el hecho de que esta es una primera ocurrencia, primer incidente que comete el acusado, que ha sido arrestado, y estamos pidiendo por una fianza bajo firma a través de los servicios previos al público, perdón, al juicio. Pedimos que se le otorgue, que se prohíba el contacto violento entre ellos y que se prohíba el uso de drogas, alcohol y armas. Y si podemos llamar para la señora Arias en la plataforma, por favor. Señora Arias, por favor, si puede prender su micrófono para poder escucharla y participar en la sesión.
Hello, buenas.
Ms. Arias, if you want to say something, I would need to place you under oath.
Señora Arias, si usted quiere decir algo, la tengo que juramentar.
Sí.
Raise
Yes.
your right. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Juras solemnemente y afirma que la declaración que usted va a proveer será la verdad a su mejor criterio.
Juro que será la verdad.
I do that it's going to be the truth.
May I put your hand down? What would you like to tell us?
Baje la mano y ¿qué quisiera decirnos?
Nada, que en realidad él no me tocó, no pasó nada. Estamos juntos, vivimos juntos, es un hombre muy bueno, muy trabajador. Quizá en ese momento yo estaba un poco ansiosa porque he tenido unos días muy tristes, no sé el idioma y he estado un poco tensa, pero en realidad el caballero no me tocó, es mi esposo, lo amo. Nos respetamos, incluso ese mismo día hablamos.
Ok, un momento, por favor. Well, I just want to say that he didn't touch me, that it didn't happen, that nothing happened. We live together, and he is a hardworking man. What happens is that I've been very anxious and sad, tense, but he is a good man, and I love him. Siga, señora, por favor.
Omar Ortiz es un caballero muy respetuoso, en verdad. Fue una pequeña discusión entre pareja, como todo, pero no pasó más de ahí. Estamos juntos, vivimos juntos y él es un hombre muy amable, muy bueno, por cierto, y en realidad no me tocó. Incluso ese mismo día hablamos con el guardia y que el guardia lo vio, estaba presente, dijo que arregláramos las cosas en paz y que esto no volviera a ocurrir. Pensábamos que ya esto no volvería a pasar, no sabíamos que esto estaba todavía vigente,
Okay, one
porque
moment, please. One moment, please. And as I said, he actually had a little discussion like most couples do, but we live together and he is a kind and good man and he didn't touch me. Even the guardian saw that we reconcile and that we don't want this to happen again. And honestly, I don't know how this is happening right now.
Thank you, Ms. Chancy.
You're welcome, Your Honor.
Mrs. Arias, the police were called to Ralph McGill Boulevard to your apartment on June 29th, 2024.
Señora Arias, la policía fue llamada al departamento de Ralph McGill Boulevard el 29 de junio del 2024.
Would that be correct?
¿Es correcto?
sí,
Yes.
There was a translator who was helping you communicate with the police. Would that be correct?
Es correcto que había un traductor o traductora que estaba ayudándole a comunicarse con la policía, ¿cierto?
sí, cierto.
Yes, that's right.
Did you inform the police that that Mr. Ortiz physically assaulted you?
¿Le informó usted a la policía de que el señor Ortiz la agredió físicamente?
No que me agredió físicamente, quizá no me entendió el policía y el que me estaba, el traductor. Yo dije que estaba muy nerviosa, que me sentía muy triste. Entonces me sigue insistiendo que se me pegó. Yo dije, no me pegó. Incluso yo tenía
I think that maybe the police and the translator didn't understand me. And they say they ask if they hit me. He hit me, and I said no, he didn't hit me.
Okay. Did you tell the police officer through a translator that Mr. Ortiz grabbed your hair and punched you in the back of your head 3 times?
Le dijo usted al traductor que, o al oficial a través del traductor, que el señor Ortiz la tomó de su pelo y le dio un puñetazo en la parte de atrás de la cabeza 3 veces?
no me dio, no hizo eso, él no me dio.
No, he
No.
didn't do it. He didn't do that.
That's not what I asked you.
Eso no le pregunté yo.
Did you tell the police officer that Mr. Ortiz grabbed your hair and punched you in the back of your head 3 times?
¿Le dijo usted a la policía que el señor Ortiz la tomó de su cabello y le dio un puñetazo en la parte de atrás de la cabeza 3 veces? ¿Le dijo usted eso?
No le dije eso.
No, I didn't say that.
And did you complain of pain to your head to the police officer?
¿Se quejó usted de tener dolor de cabeza al oficial de policía?
No me dolía la cabeza. En esos días yo no me sentía bien. Y le dije, no me he sentido bien. Le dije al oficial, no me he sentido bien hace unos días.
No, I didn't have a headache. I haven't been feeling well. And I told the police I haven't been feeling well for a few days.
Okay. Miss Allen, you can get the body cam and decide whether Miss Arias has made false statements to the police or whether she has made false statements in this courtroom.
Entonces, señora Allen, usted puede utilizar la cámara que se usa en el cuerpo corporal y usted puede descifrar si esto no fue dicho al policía o la señora le ha mentido a este tribunal.
On the battery family violence, there's going to be $1,000. On the simple battery is $1,000. It's a $2,000 signature bond through the jail.
Entonces, con respecto al primer cargo de golpes y lesiones, van a ser $1,000 por los golpes y lesiones simples, una fianza de $1,000, con total de $2,000 de fianza bajo firma a través de la cárcel.
No further violent contact with Yanira Arias.
Y queda prohibido el contacto violento con Yanira Arias.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Your Honor, may I use the translator for just?
Yes. Deputy Francois, did Miss Page still want to ask a question?
Yes, come on, Paige.
All right, I'm going to put you into a breakout very shortly, Mr. McLean, but your client, Miss Page, had a question.
No,
Go ahead.
I wondered if I could use the Spanish translator to say something to the.
Yep, very shortly. Miss Page, quickly, what's your question?
Hi, I was wondering, okay, thank you for giving me signature, Brown, but I was just wondering with the situation, because there's no proof or anything, could I please, like, be switched to non-violent contact?
No.
Like, we don't fight, he never put his hand.
No, no.
Okay.
No. All right, that concludes this case. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
This is going to be position number
No, we
22.
have,
Smith. Oh, doing
we
a
have-
Spanish interpreter. Come on.
yeah, this is Spanish interpreter. Okay, now, Mr. McLean, what did you want to say through the interpreter?
I want to say, Mr. Ortiz, do you understand?
No, this is Miss Escobar.
Right, that's Mr.
This is Miss Escobar. Position 7.
All right, so we on number 7.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Mr. McLean wants to be able to ask his client a question with the help of the interpreter, Mr. Ortiz, who was just on.
Oh, Mr. Ortiz has already been, courtroom 1 has already been removed.
Okay, well, we'll figure it out later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McLean. Mr. Cook, are you ready to go into a breakout with Miss Escobar and the Spanish interpreter?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Lewis, could you please place them in a breakout? All right. Courtroom 2, I can address the next case with Mr. McLean.
We can go with position number 16, Mr. McCullen.
McCullen has not been interviewed by me yet. I don't know if anybody did. Is that correct, Mr. McCullen?
The other public defender said, I talked to a different public defender. I can't remember his name. That was over there in courtroom.
Felony, Your Honor.
No, it wasn't a felony. It was over there in the other courtroom. They brought me over there for misdemeanor, and he said I could speak with him for you.
All
Okay.
right. We'll have to wait until you can have a chance to speak to Mr. McLean. Can we have any cases that Mr. McLean's already spoken to the defendants?
We can go with position number 15, Mr. Lucas.
15, Mr. Lucas. Okay.
What?
This is State versus Jeffrey Lucas, accused of battery, family violence, 2 counts from October 27, 2024. His accusation number is 24 CR 7425A. Mr. Lucas, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
11, 2019 driving without a valid license conviction. 2018 assault causing bodily injury, family violence conviction. I think that was in Texas. It was out of state. 2013 burglary conviction, 2013 theft conviction.
That was 11 cycles. All right, Miss Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident from the 27th of October. At about 10 p.m., police were called to 181 Ralph David Abernathy, or actually, police were called in Riverdale. and told that a victim who lived there was reporting an assault that occurred at 181 Ralph David Abernathy. And so they responded and spoke to the victim. Her name is Tiffany Jackson. She reported that she'd been at the Rum Punch, which is at 181 Ralph David Abernathy, with the defendant the night before, that she'd been assaulted. She said that they'd argued inside and she went outside. He had threatened to leave her. She sat down outside and waited. He came back. They walked together to their vehicle. There was some pushing back and forth. She sat in the vehicle and the defendant left her. He took the keys with him, and that was the only way she could get home in that car. So she waited. He returned to her where she was in the car and began striking her repeatedly. And then they drove home. When she got home, she called and made a disclosure to her sister about being assaulted. APD were on the scene with her in Riverdale as she made this report, along with those police and the Department of Social Services there who were called. She reported that she had not disclosed previous violence and was afraid to call the police about this because she was concerned her children would be taken away from her and she'd be evicted. That's typical in domestic violence situations, especially if a victim is dependent financially on someone, or they've been made to feel like they should be afraid that that's something that's going to happen. She was transported to the hospital, actually, Your Honor, and the defendant, who was still on scene, was identified by her, but refused to speak to officers at that point, and warrants were taken out. We have attempted to speak to the victim this morning, but have not been successful yet. And one moment. We'll continue to do that. We'll also reach out to the Department of Social Services in an attempt to triangulate in that manner to make sure we get our communication correct, Your Honor. Based on the criminal history that includes felony level domestic violence from out of state, the fact that this gentleman has been in Georgia committing crimes at least since 2019, which means that there's not as much of a tie here as someone who was born and raised here, considering his criminal history. We'd be asking for a $4,000 surety bond, Your Honor. No contact with the victim and her children. That's Tiffany Jackson. To stay away from wherever she may reside. I believe that's 181, or no, I believe that's in Riverdale. And at this point, we would ask for not a specific address for a stay away, but just wherever she may live or work with her children at this point, just until we get further information. And no drugs, alcohol, or weapons, Your Honor. I apologize. Thank you.
Tiffany Jackson, if you're on Zoom, you want to contribute? All right. Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, my client is 31 years old. He is the father of twin children. Let's see, he also has children that are 8 and 12. He works as a delivery driver, delivering appliances in trucks. He's done that for 5 or 6 years. He went to Cedar Grove High School in Decatur, Georgia. So if he went to high school in Decatur, Georgia, he would have had, I suppose, some community contacts before that. I don't know if the Texas was a multi-year interlude in his life. We would ask the court to set as low a bond, as low as possible for a bond. We do realize the court has to take into account his past, but he has provided us with 2 phone numbers. I believe that the electronic problems we had today prevented me from looking at one thing in the laptop, but nonetheless, I think that he will have enough stable information here to not miss court.
Okay.
And he certainly, in our conversation, as a young man, he understands court orders and says he will follow them.
All right. Courtroom 2, please unmute. Mr. Lucas, if you want to contribute to this proceeding, please understand that you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court can and will be used against you. So if you choose to say anything, you could be incriminating yourself. Would you like to waive your right to remain silent, or would you like to remain silent?
I didn't want to speak. I want to speak. I didn't want to speak on the case. I just wanted to let you know that I'm born here. I've spent most of my life here and in Texas, but my whole family resides here. Nobody other than my mom stays outside of the state of Georgia.
So your
Father,
conviction for assault, family violence, and burglary in 2018 and 2015, are those accurate?
the burglary happened in 2013.
So
Right
those
out
are accurate convictions?
yes, for the burglary, and the assault was a misdemeanor, not a felony. It was lessened down to a misdemeanor.
All right, thank you. On count one, battery family violence, that's going to be a 2,500 surety bond. On count two, that's going to be a 2,500 signature bond through pretrial services level 3. Your total bond is a $5,000 split bond. If you do pay for the bond portion, the surety bond portion, then after being released, you are required to report to pretrial once a week. You are to have no contact with Tiffany Jackson. You have to stay 200 yards away from her and not communicate with her in any way, form, or manner. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and while you report to pretrial, you will be subject to random screens. You're not allowed by law, since you have a felony conviction for burglary, you are not allowed by law to own or possess any firearms. Your next court date is going to be November 14th.
What?
Yes, sir?
So I come to jail every week.
To pretrial office once a week.
Where would that be located?
They'll tell you everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this Mr. Helms?
Mr. Creasy.
Creasy, okay. This is Jalen Jabril Ronald Creasy, position 6 on our calendar, case 24 CR 7432E. Mr. Creasy has got 2 counts of battery family violence from August 31st, 2024. Mr. Creasy, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any priors, Mr. Howard? Sorry? Oops, I lost your audio, Mr. Howard.
First arrest, he went to felony and got a $22,000 bond.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. The defendant was arrested yesterday on a felony charge related to possession of a firearm and felony drugs at MARTA. When he was arrested, these warrants from August popped up and they were served on him, and that's why we're here. This is an incident from August the 31st, 2024. The location is 1099 Shadow Glen Drive. The defendant and his younger brother, so the young man in front of you, Jalen, is 18, his younger brother is 17. His younger brother, Nathaniel, also has warrants out for his arrest. The incident occurred at that location there on Shadow Glen, where these 2 brothers live with their father, their father's wife, and their step siblings. So a blended family, Your Honor. Police were called by Zykeria Hood. She is the stepsister of these 2 young men. She reported that she argued with her brother Nathaniel, her stepbrother Nathaniel, who then called Jaden over to fight her, that they assaulted her while she was in her mom's bathroom, repeatedly then her in the face with their fists, that Jalen, the gentleman in front of you, held her down while 17-year-old Nathaniel struck her repeatedly. They then went downstairs and she followed them, complaining and very upset, asking why they would do that to her. She told them that she was going to call 911 and they fled on foot. Her little brother, Juvenile, his initials are BH, was also there in the residence and reported to the police that the 2 brothers, his stepbrothers, the same gentleman in front of you, Jalen, and the other brother, Nathaniel, who's got active warrants, came into his bedroom where he was playing on a computer and proceeded to strike him as well. He was seen to have visible bruising on his arm. They then proceeded, after assaulting him, to assault his sister. The mother of the 2 victims, Your Honor, Brandy Creasy, came home. She said she was notified about the incident and left work. She reported that both of the young men live in the same household with her and her children and her husband. We spoke with Mrs. Hood, the victim in this case, or the initial victim in this case who called 911. She said that the defendant in front of you, as well as Nathaniel, are her mom's husband's children, so her step siblings, that after this incident, her mother kicked both of them out of the house. She also has left the residence. She said that this is not the first time she's been assaulted by her brothers, but it's Nathaniel usually who's the issue. And I would note that Nathaniel's the only one who has juvenile history. She also said that they'd been violent with her little brother previously, both of them. She actually was reported to have, when we looked further into it, visible bruising on her arms, her feet, and her face was swollen as a result of being struck multiple times. Your Honor, we also spoke with Brandy Creasy, who would obviously be in a difficult position here. She's married to this young man's father. And she reported that the defendant was kicked out of the house after this happened, but she also contradicted some of the information provided, saying that her little boy, the juvenile, didn't want to proceed with charges. And that there'd been no violence previously, and that's just not the case. The state understands that these interfamily situations are difficult, but there's obviously a safety issue here. These are all very young individuals. The defendant in front of you is calling his mom from the jail. There's clearly other family members that can step in and make sure that this young man and his brother, so both Jalen and Nathaniel, have no contact with the young victims who should be safe in their homes, Zykeria Hood and her juvenile brother with the initials BH. We're asking for a surety bond, Your Honor. We'd ask for $4,000, $2,000 on each count. There's one count of battery, one for each of the children in the home. No contact with the two young people, BH and Zykeria Hood, and to stay away from the location where they live. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond. Thank you.
Mr. McLean?
And if you want to sound for Zykeria, she's on the Zoom.
Okay, I'll address her shortly. Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, let me, because of the events of the day having to do with when we were interviewing and the circumstances under which we were interviewing, I did not take written notes on his job, which I normally like to tell the court about. So if I might, I think it would be fine to just ask him directly again with the court's present.
Go ahead.
I think it'll be fine. Mr. Creasy, would you tell the judge where you work?
I work with my dad. He do HVAC.
I'm sorry, where?
I work with my father. He does
Where?
HVAC.
Where? Where do you work with your father? Where's this location?
We don't have a location.
What do you do?
I'm an HVAC apprentice.
You're what?
I'm an apprentice.
Mr. McLean,
Right.
I can't
Now,
make it. He's an apprentice doing what? I don't know what.
Your Honor, his answer does make me recall. He is an HV technician apprentice under his father.
I see.
Do heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. And I discussed with him if he's learned the safety rules about the high pressure and the low pressure in the AC. He's just an apprentice, so he doesn't know all the safety rules yet, but he's learning them. I asked him if his father had a crew or if it's just him, and right now it's just him. It's not a large company, but they do commercial and residential heating and ventilation and air conditioning systems. So he's got a bright future ahead of him in terms of economics. I believe he has completed some education that is appropriate to his age, and he should have no problems whatsoever in following any court orders having to do with staying away from his step siblings. We would ask the court to consider a lower signature bond, a signature bond, or a lower surety bond instead of $1,000 or $2,000. Thank you.
Ms. Zykeria Hood, if you want to contribute to the proceedings, you need to unmute and start your video. Zykeria Hood. Okay. On the each count of battery family violence, it's going to be 1,500. The total bond for Mr. Creasy is going to be 3,000. This is a surety bond. His next court date is November 14. No further contact with Sakiria Hood. No further contact with the minor identified as BH. He's also to stay 200 yards away from 1099 Shadow Glen Drive, Atlanta, Georgia. He's required to update the court with his current mailing address, which cannot be Shadow Glen Drive, and that update must be provided within 30 days of being released. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and definitely no firearms. Thank you. Mr. Cook, are we ready to address Ms. Escobar?
Yes, Your Honor.
This is position number 7, State versus Beatrice Adriana Escobar Quiroz.
Esta es la posición 7, Adriana Escobar Quiroz.
She is charged with simple battery family violence from October 30th, 2024.
Ella tiene un cargo por golpes y lesiones simples del 30 de octubre del 2024.
The case number is 24 CR 7435E.
El número de caso es 24 CR 7435E.
You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you.
Usted tiene el derecho a guardar silencio. Todo lo que diga en un tribunal público puede y será usado en su contra.
You have a right to an attorney, and if you cannot afford one, Mr. Cook will be your appointed counsel.
Usted tiene el derecho a ser representada por un abogado y si no puede pagar por uno, el señor Cook será su abogado asignado.
Any priors on Ms. Escobar?
¿Hay antecedentes con la señora Escobar?
Second arrest, illegal alien arrest out of Texas. That's it.
Es el segundo arresto. El primero fue en Texas por inmigrante indocumentado.
Ms. Mukherjee?
Yes, Your Honor.
Señora Mukherjee.
The victim in this case is Daniel Barranco, the defendant's husband.
La víctima en este caso es Daniel Barranco, el esposo de la acusada.
The incident location is 50 Roswell, Sandy Springs.
Esto ocurrió el incidente en el domicilio 5320 de Roswell Road en Sandy Springs.
The victim is accused of slapping her husband in the face after he began telling their 8-year-old child. Sorry, the defendant is accused of slapping her husband in the face after he began telling their 8-year-old child that the defendant was having an affair
La
during
víctima es acusada por darle una palmada a su esposo en la cara después de decirle al hijo de 8 años, perdón, la acusada tiene un cargo por darle una palmada a su esposo en la cara después de decirle a su hijo de 8 años que el acusado tenía una aventura.
The party's child witnessed the slap, and that is the person who called the police.
El hijo de la otra parte, o sea, fue testigo de esto y por eso se llamó a la policía.
The defendant advised officers that her husband was intoxicated at the time of the incident and did admit to slapping him.
La acusada le dijo a los oficiales que su esposo estaba ebrio en el momento del incidente y por eso admitió haberle dado una palmada en la cara.
The state's recommendation is a signature bond through pretrial service.
La recomendación es una fianza bajo firma a través de los servicios previos al juicio.
No further contact with the victim and stay away from the incident location at this time because we have unfortunately not been able to speak with the victim.
no tener contacto alguno con la víctima y mantenerse alejada del lugar del incidente, porque no hemos tenido, desafortunadamente, la posibilidad de hablar con la víctima.
No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. Of course, we are willing to change this recommendation based on any communication with the victim.
Que quede prohibido el uso de drogas, armas y alcohol durante la libertad bajo fianza. Por supuesto, estamos dispuestos a cambiar esta sentencia recomendada basado en la comunicación que tengamos con la víctima.
I would ask the court to sound for Mr. Daniel Barranco.
Le pido, señora jueza, que se llame al señor Daniel Barranco para ver si está presente. Daniel Barranco Godínez, ¿está presente en la plataforma de Zoom? Por favor, prenda su micrófono y su cámara para poder hablar.
All right, Mr. Cook, any objection to the signature bond?
Señor Cook, ¿alguna objeción para una fianza bajo firma?
No objection to the signature bond, Your Honor. We do have some issues as far as the stay away or no further contact.
No tengo objeción con la fianza bajo firma, su señoría, pero sí tenemos objeciones con otras partes de la sentencia.
It's going to be a $1,500 signature bond through pretrial level 1.
La fianza será de $1,500 a través de los servicios previos al juicio en el nivel 1.
No violent contact with Daniel Godinez.
No tener contacto alguno con el señor, contacto violento con el señor Godínez, Daniel.
If Ms. Escobar decides to leave and change her address, she will need to make sure that we have a new mailing address.
Si la señora Escobar decide irse de su residencia y cambiar su domicilio, el tribunal necesitará que se asegure de darnos la nueva dirección.
She needs to report to pretrial once a week.
Necesita presentarse ante los oficinas de servicios previos al juicio una vez a la semana.
Right. Ms. Escobar, do you understand that you do not have to pay for your bond today, but if you get arrested again, that signature bond will be revoked?
Señor Escobar, ¿entiende usted que no tiene que pagar por su fianza hoy, pero si a usted la arrestan de nuevo, esa fianza bajo firma será revocada, cancelada?
Okay.
Ok,
Thank you.
gracias.
Do we need Ms. Chansey for any other cases?
Se necesita un intérprete para hablar con la señora jueza. Por favor, prenda su cámara y micrófono y avísenos.
Oh, I think that was a no.
Your Honor, I want to make sure that Ms. Escobar knows she can go home, but she can have no further violent contact.
Su señoría, quisiera explicar a la señora Escobar que ella sí puede irse a su casa, pero no puede tener ningún contacto violento con su esposo más. ¿Entiende, señora?
Sí, claro.
Yes, of course. I
Okay,
do.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Gracias, su señor. All
Thank
right,
you, Ms.
thank you.
Chansey. Have a
Have a
great
good day,
weekend.
Your Honor.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, what was that amount?
1,500 signature bond through pretrial level 1.
We can go to position.
Number
Francois?
20,
Go ahead.
number 22, Smith.
Okay. 22, Smith. I have Sparrow Smith accused of battery, family violence, and criminal trespass causing damage to property from July 30th of 2023, accusation 24 CR 7428Y. Ms. Smith, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Cook. Any priors, Mr. Howard? Position 22.
That should be Mr. McLean, Your Honor.
Mr. McLean? Okay. Mr. McLean, that's your client, Sparrow Smith?
All right, 10th arrest. Got an open battery, simple battery out of state court. On probation out of Cobb. Entering auto and financial transaction card fraud. Wanted out of Cobb for probation warrant. Has a bench warrant in Fulton. 2023 FTA. 2022 shoplifting the freight conviction.
Mr. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident from July the 30th. Police were called to 813 Plainville Drive around noon. The victim in this case is Robert Harris. He reported that he and the defendant were dating, living at a rooming house together there at that location. He actually went to the precinct after it happened on the same day. He said that during an argument, the victim scratched him on his neck and face and arms and used a hammer to smash his phone. His injuries were visible to police. His phone was damaged. He'd actually went and used a neighbor's phone to call for help, and a third-party individual who was a witness made the 911 call. Detectives followed up with the victim who reported that basically he corroborated his initial statement, and he reported that there'd been another argument before the initial one, but that somebody helped him use a phone, and that's how he was able to get away from the location. We haven't been in touch with Mr. Harris today. This incident did happen in July, Your Honor. The defendant was also arrested for a May criminal damage to property felony level against her sister for damaging property when she got angry about their mom. Her criminal history, as well as the open case you just heard about from pretrial, indicates that this is a pattern of behavior, and family members or people she's in relationships are generally in danger. She's also got a entering auto felony conviction and financial transaction card theft case that she's being supervised on. She just pled guilty to in July of this year out of Cobb County. We'd ask for a $2,000 surety, Your Honor, no contact with Mr. Harris, and stay away from wherever he may live. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond. Thank you.
And so, all right, that's fine. Mr. McLean? I'm sorry, you're on mute, Mr. McLean? I'm sorry, Mr.
McLean, you're still muted.
He's currently interviewing one of his clients.
Mr. McLean, we are in the middle of one of your client's cases, Sparrow Smith. Oh, your audio is gone.
He's interviewing.
No, we have no audio on him for Zoom.
Yeah.
We have no audio. All right. Mr. McLean, you may have to check your audio connection. Mr. Cook, do you have any other clients in courtroom 2?
I believe I have at least 4.
He does, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. McLean, can you unmute and see if your audio is good now? No, we can't hear you. You probably have to leave Zoom and reconnect. All right, Francois, we'll have to hold until Mr. McLean is able to come in with audio and video.
Okay, Judge.
Sorry. Okay, courtroom 2, could we have Mr. Cook's next client?
We could go on to the add-on position number 1, Mr. Kincaid.
Okay. Mr. McLean, you may have to leave Zoom and come back in and make sure your device is connected. Thank you. That was an add-on, okay. This is State versus Marquise Demond Mitchell Kincaid, case number 24 CR 7441Y. Mr. Kincaid is accused of theft by shoplifting from yesterday. And Mr. Kincaid, you have been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Keith Cook. Any priors on Mr. Kincaid?
No, and it says he's homeless.
All right. Ms. Mokeke? Please unmute.
Sorry. The defendant is accused of stealing clothes and shoes from the Nordstrom rack located at 3495 Buckhead Loop Northeast in Atlanta while he was an employee there. The state's recommendation is a signature bond that he stay away from all Nordstrom rack stores, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
Any objection to the stay away, Mr. Cook?
No objection, Your Honor.
Bond is set at $1,000. It's a signature bond through pretrial services level 1. He'll have to report to pretrial once a month. He's to stay away from all Nordstrom rack stores, including the one at Bucket Loop. Next court date will be sent to his current mailing address. He will need to provide a good mailing address within 30 days of being released. Thank you.
So where does he live?
Mr. Kincaid, do you have a mailing address at the present time?
It can be sent to my previous.
Sit up straight. Sit up straight and tell us what's your address.
I don't have a current address.
Where do you receive mail?
It can still be sent to my previous address right now.
Which is?
3378 Greenbrier Parkway.
3378
Greenbrier Parkway.
Greenbrier Parkway. City and zip?
Atlanta, Georgia, 30331.
Any apartment number?
I actually forget.
You forgot. Okay. Then there'll be $1,000 good bond, and we'll see him on November 14th. Thank you.
You can go back and have it.
Next case, please.
Your Honor, I'm back. I'm mystified as to everything in the way of symbology before was saying that I was unmuted, but I could hear y'all.
Okay, then did you hear the matter with Ms. Sparrow Smith?
No, Your Honor, at the time I was interviewing Mr. Robinson, and then I heard y'all say McLean's muted, so I jumped over.
Okay. The state is recommending I believe it was a $2,000 surety bond.
Okay, until the court a bit.
Miss Allen, did you have anything else? Or was it Miss McKay? I think it was Miss Allen.
It was me, Your Honor. If you need me to repeat anything, I'll absolutely do that, but we were asking for a $2,000 surety and no contact with Mr. Harris, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons, and to stay away from wherever he may live or work.
Mr. McLean, did you need more information? Oh, Mr. McLean.
No, Your Honor.
Mr. McLean, your Wi-Fi is frozen. If you want to stop your video, maybe it won't.
Yeah.
If you stop your video, maybe we'll be able to hear you. There we go. Okay.
There we go. Maybe it's a matter of the bandwidth or something.
Yes.
Your Honor, my client, Miss Smith, has been taking some courses in business at Kennesaw State University.
Oh, no. I think we lost his connection. Mr. McLean, we lost your connection.
There we go. Reconnected. She is in retail sales at a retail store, and that's 30 to 40 hours a week. She also helps her mom with a volunteer service. They do that on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, providing food and goods to domestic violence survivors. And that's her mom's charity mostly, or organization rather. She does artistic work at least 40 hours a week and is online and in person. and I believe that's audio and other matters like performance. So she's working very hard, and she is working on her education. With regard to this case, she and I discussed court procedures, and she will come to court on time. I'll put it that way. We would ask the court to consider as low a bond as possible for her.
Unfortunately, she's got a $2,000 cash bond only on her bench warrant in case number 22 CR 002-558Y. This particular case on the battery is going to be 1,000. On the criminal trespass is 500. That's going to be a $1,500 surety bond. Both cases are going to be reset to November 14th. No further contact with Robert Harris, and to stay away from the incident location. And if she does make bond, unfortunately, on both cases, she'll have to be released to the Cobb County hold, where she has other open cases.
Other fish to fry, understood.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Courtroom 2, who do we have next?
We can go with position number 16. This is Mr. Cook's client, Mr. McCullum.
Mr. McLean, have you had a chance to speak to Mr. McCullum?
So this is Cook's client, Your Honor.
Oh, Cook's, okay, thank you.
If Mr.
This
McCullum,
is, yeah, thank you. This is Kelton McCullum, accused of battery.
Your Honor, if Mr. McLean could call courtroom 2 back so he could finish interviewing.
Mr. McLean, did you want to call the courtroom and finish your interview with whoever you're speaking with?
At 2392?
No, 22060.
Okay, I'll do that. With Mr. McCollum, I'll need a number as well.
No, that's my client, Mike. I've talked to him.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is State versus Kelton McCullum, 24 CR 74268. Mr. McCullum has got 2 counts of battery family violence from October 13th, 2024. Mr. McCullum, you have been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Keith Cook. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
7, 2023 DUI, 2020 contempt of court. He went to felony earlier.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident that occurred on the 13th of October. Police were called to 3450 Roxborough Road, Unit 5112. They spoke to Carrie McCullum, Kerri is her first name. She's the sister of the defendant. She reported that he was living with her, that during an argument, he grabbed her by the neck and tried to choke her, punched her in her face. She was seen to have scratches on the right side of her face and scratches on her neck. She said she was able to get away from the defendant and throw items at him, which made him stop assaulting her. And that's when she called 911, but he left the location. She was interviewed a few days later by investigators with the DV unit and corroborated that statement initially that she had given. She provided photographs of her injuries. And she ID'd her brother specifically. The defendant has criminal history out of Wisconsin and Illinois. He has a current warrant out of South Fulton, I believe, but also the DUI that pretrial just mentioned, and it looks like he has a felony level drug and possession of a firearm case that he was seen in first appearance this morning for. We spoke to Mrs. McCullum today. She reported that she and the defendant no longer live together. She confirmed the incident and talked about what happened. She said that his mother was standing between them when he grabbed her by the neck by reaching around, that he did apply pressure, but she was able to breathe. She also reported that she's left the residence and she will not be returning. So we're just asking for a stay away from her, specifically the sister, Carrie with a K. We're asking for a $4,000 surety, Your Honor, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons.
Mr. Howard, can you explain to me his current hold? He's got a hold out of an agency. Is it in any other jurisdiction?
I don't know. I haven't seen it. Hold on.
While we're waiting, Mr. Cook?
Your Honor, my client is 30 years old. He was in felony court this morning, so he has, as Mr. McLean would say, bigger fish to fry there with a very large with a very large bond. I believe it was 24,000 surety, if I recall correctly. We have no objection to stay away from or no further contact with Carrie, his sister. If he could go back to 3450 Roxborough Road, otherwise that would be fine. I don't believe he's working at this point, so given what's already on his plate, we would ask for the lowest bond possible.
On the each count of battery family violence is going to be 1,500. His total bond is 3,000. This is a surety bond. No further contact with Carrie McCollum, and to stay away from 3450 Roxborough Road in Northeast Atlanta. Within 30 days of being released, he needs to update the court with his new mailing address. Yes, could we unmute courtroom 2, please? You have a right to remain silent. Anything you choose to say can and will be used against you.
Mr. McCollum, you had your hearing in felony court. That's kind of the bigger item on your plate. Unless there's something minor regarding process or not understanding the bond, it is a money bond, $3,000 surety. You could pay it out of your pocket to go through a bondsman.
His hand shot up when I said he had to stay away from Roxborough Road. Is that your home?
That's my home. Like me,
and does your sister live there?
No, she live with her mom. She stay in Vegas.
All
So
right.
the victim did report to us that she moved away from that location.
Okay, in that case, then I'll remove the stay away. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next court date is November 14th. If he does make bond, it shows he's got a hold, but I'm not sure where.
It says South Fulton, the private case, damage to property.
Oh, okay, there we go. Then he'll be released to the South Fulton hold. I'm just going to put down release to any pending holds. Yes, sir.
I literally just went to court for
that. I don't know where the hold is from. If you don't have any other holds, then you should be released on bond once you make bond.
Okay.
Which is your felony bond and your this new bond of 3,000.
Thank you.
We can go to position number 9, Mr. Got it? Yeah,
Kyle Godet is accused of battery family violence under accusation 24 CR 7438F. Mr. Godet, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. The incident, is that correct, Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And the incident date appears to be October 31st of this year. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
2011 battery DV, cruelty in the second arrest. Everything else was before that.
Battery, do you know if it shows as a conviction?
No.
Battery DV arrest, okay. And that was in 2011.
11,
okay. Ms. Mulcahy? I'm sorry, please mute.
Did it again, sorry.
That's all right.
The victim in this case is Dina Baldwin, who is the defendant's wife. The defendant was upset about his wife not telling him that one of their daughters had tried to harm herself. The parties were having a dispute about this when the defendant grabbed his wife by the arms and threw her on the couch, causing a red mark to her left arm. The warrant also indicates that the defendant threw a bowl of candy at his wife, but it's unclear if the bowl actually made contact with her. The party's 14-year-old daughter was present at the home at the time, but it's believed that she was upstairs. Our office has spoken with Ms. Baldwin, who confirmed the events in the warrant, stated nothing like this has happened before. It states that she is not afraid of the defendant and is okay with having contact. She does want the defendant to return to the residence. The state's recommendation in this case would be a signature bond through pretrial services, that he have no further violent contact with the victim, that he undergo an FBIP, have no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. I would ask the court to sound for Ms. Dina Baldwin. I do see her on the Zoom.
Ms. Baldwin, if you'd like to contribute, you need to unmute and start your video. I'm not sure if anybody has.
I saw her on mute, but her video is not on.
I have a J Baldwin, I have a Dina Baldwin.
Yeah, I think they asked the wrong person to unmute. This is Jay Baldwin. Dinah's my
I'm here.
my cousin.
I'm here. But
Okay.
there's something going on with my video.
All right, Ms. D.
There we
There you
go.
go. All right. Ms. Baldwin, did you want to say something?
No, I just agree with what was said in the statement before.
Okay, thank you. You may mute your screen. Mr. Cook, any objection to the DBIP?
We would object, Your Honor, given it's been 2011 since anything shows up in his record, and we don't even see a conviction there. They have been married 18 years. They have the one daughter who was at Tuskegee. There was an issue about some information regarding a possible, well, I don't want to go into it, but she was having some MH issues, and I think that prompted the perhaps the incident, but it's not a pattern. So we would ask that we forego the FBIP. We would certainly have no objection to the signature bond, and we would like him to be able to return home.
Bond is set at 2,000 as a signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. And within 30 days of being released, he shall enroll in a domestic violence intervention program and complete all 26 classes at his expense. No further violent contact with Dina Baldwin and any other members of the household. No illegal drugs, no alcohol. And as this is a domestic violence matter, he's not allowed to own or possess any firearms. If he owns any guns, they have to be surrendered to the authorities for destruction. Next court date will be sent to the current address. Thank you.
Next, we can go to position 2 and 3, Mr. Bell.
Do you know what's going on with position 1, Baker?
He waived, but I did interview him. So.
All right. Thank you.
I have inquiry.
Yes, Mr. McLean?
What's going on with Prasad?
What position is that?
Release.
I'm not sure.
Position number 20, release.
Oh, he was released? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Prasad was released, so that's further notice for trial. Henry Bell has got 2 positions on the calendar. Position 2 is criminal trespass causing damage to property from May 21st, 2024, case number 24CR7431C. Second case, position 3 is 24CR7433C, accused of battery, family violence, and simple battery, family violence from August 18th, 2024. Mr. Bell, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is going to be Mr. Cook. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Third arrest, 2023, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, 2 counts, suspended license. 2022 battery DV dismissed.
All right. Ms. Mukeke?
Yes, Your Honor. For position 2, the victim in that case is Santeria Bell, who is the defendant's sister. The incident location is 2400 Campbellton Road in Atlanta. The defendant is accused of throwing a rock at the victim's sliding glass door, which caused the glass to smash. Our office has spoken with Ms. Santeria Bell, who stated that she had to pay $500 to repair the door, stated that she has not seen the defendant since this incident. She stated the defendant was upset because she did not help more to diffuse a situation between the defendant, his girlfriend at Taffany Cleveland, and another woman. She stated that she is okay with having contact with the defendant, but wants him to stay away from the residence. The state's recommendation is a $1,000 surety bond, no further violent contact with the victim, stay away from the incident location, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. For position 3, the battery family violence and the simple battery family violence, that incident location is 458 Arthur Street Southwest in Atlanta. The victim in that case is Taffany Cleveland, who used to live in the same residence as the defendant. The defendant had asked the victim to bring him food and hang out at the location. When she arrived, the defendant yelled something and then proceeded to drive off in his vehicle. When the victim confronted him about it, the defendant became enraged and started yelling at her, telling her that she couldn't speak to him the way that she was. He then grabbed her by her hair, dragged her to the ground, which caused abrasions to her elbow and her knees. And then while she was on the ground, he proceeded to kick her in the stomach. Her office spoke with Taffany Cleveland, who told our victim advocate that her and the defendant are no longer in a relationship. They do not live together. They do share one child. She said the location was the defendant's aunt's residence. She confirmed the events in the warrant and stated this has never happened before, and stated that they had not had much contact since this incident and there has been no violence since. She says she's not in fear of the defendant and is okay with having contact. The defendant has been in contact with Ms. Taffany Cleveland while being incarcerated. They talk about a number of things, including, surprisingly, getting married as soon as he gets out of jail. The state's recommendation is a $2,500 surety bond on the battery family violence, a $1,000 surety bond on the simple battery, which is a total $3,500 surety bond, no further contact with this victim. If the court is inclined to allow contact, then the state would request that the defendant undergo an FVIP. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while he's out on bond. I would ask that the court sound for Taffany Cleveland and also for Ms. Shantaria Bell.
Shantaria Bell, if you're present. Taffany Cleveland. Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor, we would be seeking no further violent contact. He can stay away from any of the alleged incident locations. He has he lives elsewhere. He's not currently working, so his income is very modest, and we'd be asking for the lowest possible bond.
Okay. On position 2, on the criminal trespass causing damage to property, that's a $1,000 surety bond. No further contact with Shantaria Bell and stay away from 2400 Campbellton Road. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no firearms. Position 3, on the battery family violence, that's a $2,500 surety. And the simple battery is a $1,000 surety. That's a $3,500 surety bond. No further contact with Taffany Cleveland. Stay away from the incident location, no illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. He currently has another open felony case, which is 24 PI 008-003. And so I'm not sure what the bond amount is in that case.
I believe he related to me that it was $1,500, John.
Okay. Then that's his bond. His next court date will be November 14 for the misdemeanor charges. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, courtroom 2, could you please unmute?
Go ahead.
I was trying to figure out the bond for the D2 charge, or is it random?
Your total bond is going to be $4,500 for both these cases. No contact with the victims and stay away from the incident locations. The next court date is November 14th.
So 4,500 and all.
Sorry?
4,500 and all, including the 15 from the
No, that's just this.
No, that's additional, Mr. Bell. The felony bond's additional. Your misdemeanor bond is $4,500 surety. And then and you we haven't confirmed, but you related the 1,500 surety and felony court. That's a completely different number. Okay.
It's not 15, it's 15,000 that he got.
Oh, it is 15,000. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that's a difference.
That's for the bomb company and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Maybe you were thinking 10%. Okay. Okay. Probably my mistake there.
15,000 issued by Judge Wolf today, and no weapons, no possession of firearms. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we can go to position 21.
Is this the waiver?
No, this is David Robinson.
Oh, okay.
21.
That's ready.
This is State versus David Robinson, position 21. His case number is 20. Oh, I'll wait till he's seated.
He's a medical, Your Honor, so I'm just trying to make sure he doesn't pass out or anything like that.
All right, I'll try to be as expeditious as possible. Mr. Robinson is accused of battery, family violence from October 29, 2024. His case number is 24 CR 7405Y. Mr. Robinson, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
7 adult arrests. He got armed robbery, terrorist threats, possession of a knife or a firearm during the commission, sale of marijuana. He went to prison for those. 2014 FTA, 2012 theft by taking, burglary conviction, 2010 robbery first offender, 2010 burglary, criminal damage to property conviction.
Thank you. Ms. Allen, briefly, what is the state seeking?
Your Honor, we're asking for a $10,000 surety bond. No further contact with the victim in this case. Her name is Janice Jackson. Stay away from the location where this occurred. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons.
And Mr. Cook?
Oh, no, that's me.
Oh, sorry, Mr. McLean. Sorry, go ahead.
Your Honor, my client has been out from prison on that sentence that was mentioned and has been applying himself diligently. This is a very unfortunate circumstance that has come up for today. He's 31. He's gotten already some college certification. The college courses he took were in logistics, so he's gotten certification or is working on the certification for certified logistics associates. And that has to do with warehouse work and the movement of material. When he first got out, he worked in construction, and then he worked in setting up banquets at America's Mart and setting up displays at America's Marts. And now for the last 3 months, he got a job at Georgia Tech in the dining hall. And he is considering once Georgia Tech, once he's got enough experience at Georgia Tech, he would like to work rather at Olive Garden, and the tips will be much better.
Okay.
Your Honor, he and I had a discussion about the seriousness of arguments with spouses turning physical. We had a discussion about that. He has anxiety and panic attacks. That's why he's been in medical reset a couple of times for the last couple of days. That's simply what's going on with him. We would ask the court, he provided me with his uncle's number, the address of something, Sahara, and a phone number.
Sahara Drive, yeah.
Right. So if that's the instant location, I don't have anything much to offer there, but he does completely understand following court orders because he's got a lot at stake. He's on probation.
Janice Jackson. I'm sorry, Ms. Allen. I was going to
just briefly, Your Honor. You know, the report here was about an argument. Two people who were unrelated to the victim and the defendant reported that there was where there were gunshots fired.
Right.
And on the
Allegedly,
scene,
there was, yeah. Okay, I read
On
the
the scene,
warrant.
the victim was seen to have visible injuries. And that's the basis for the family violence battery. She had a fresh bloody laceration on her head. We have spoken with her. She says that they share no children. She confirmed the information in the warrant. And she also reported that the location 4622 Sabara Drive is the defendant's address. She understands if she doesn't have to, if she's not allowed to return there. We are asking for no further contact, Your Honor. Both of the individuals related to this case were untruthful about what was happening. The young man in front of you is not supposed to be in possession of a firearm or be in a home where there is a firearm or be arguing over a firearm. There were shell casings found in the doorway of the location and an unused round. So a spent round and a bullet. So obviously evidence was tampered with and something happened before police arrived, but the effort to get rid of evidence of a firearm is obvious in this case, Your Honor. There's a concern.
Janice Jackson, if you want to contribute to the proceeding, this is the time to unmute and start your video. Ms. Jackson, did you want to say anything?
Yes, I do.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Are you married to Mr. Robinson?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and do you reside at 4622 Sahara Drive?
We were staying together.
Okay.
It's like
Is there a
rooming house.
firearm in that home?
No, ma'am.
So nothing was discharged?
I don't have any information about anything being discharged. I was not present for that. All I do know is that I was there when we were arguing. It's never happened like that before. And he did get out. He's not a violent person. I do believe that stresses that were occurring, just through normal life had gotten to him that day. And we got into a tussle. As far as the surety bond, I really don't think it's necessary. He's trying to get his life back together after spending a good portion of his adult life incarcerated. I'm not afraid of him. I don't have any problem with any contact or him speaking to me at all.
My concern is the spent casing and the ammunition found on the ground inside the apartment.
Well, the investigators didn't feel it was even necessary to come out and swab our hands or anything.
Ms. Jackson,
So
that's
even-
not what I'm talking about. I'm not
I
saying that
understand
I'm just saying that there is ammunition inside the apartment.
I understand that, ma'am. I came out, I don't know about, like I said,
Okay.
after it all happened, I came down and the police were already outside.
Are you planning to stay at 4622 Sahara Drive?
No, ma'am. But he is necessary for me to get my belongings out of the room so that I can, but my mom's ashes is in there and I really want my mother's ashes.
You can return and collect your belongings.
No, I cannot without him. They will not allow me to get my stuff without him being present.
All right, I'll see what I can do. Thank you. Please
Thank you
mute your
very
screen.
much, ma'am.
Mr. Cook, anything else to add? Or Mr. McLean, excuse me?
Nothing to add, Your Honor.
All right. On the battery family violence, that's going to be a 4,500 surety bond. No further contact with Ms. Janice Jackson. He may return to the 4622 Sahara Drive as long as Ms. Janice Jackson no longer lives at the property. Ms. Champion, let's put in the order that the victim, Janice Jackson, shall be allowed into the rental property at Sahara Drive one time only to remove her personal belongings. And then, oh dear, okay.
What was that bond?
4,500 surety. All right. Courtroom 2, do we have any additional cases? Oh. Let's do your waiver case, Mr. Cook.
Yes, sure.
And that was Jason Baker, accused of stalking, family violence, and criminal trespass, 24 CR 7443F. This is from September 2nd, 2024. Appointed counsel is Mr. Keith Cook, who has waived his client's presence. Have you submitted the waiver in writing to?
Yes, I have, Your Honor.
Okay. And Mr. Howard, any priors on Mr.
Fifth arrest.
Jason? I'm sorry?
Fifth arrest, 2024 probation, 2024 terroristic threats, open in state court. That's it.
All right. Ms. Mokeke?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident occurred in September of 2024. The incident location is 2045 Law Dawn Lane, Northwest. Officers arrived at the location and spoke with the defendant's mother, Ms. Vivian Baker. Ms. Baker told officers that the defendant knocked on the back window asking for his wallet. Ms. Baker then told him she was not going to open the door because Jeffrey Baker, who is the defendant's father, and her have a TPO order against him, ordering him not to be at the residence or have contact. Ms. Baker went to look for the wallet, and next thing she knew, the defendant had thrown a chair through the window. The defendant's father, Mr. Jeffrey Baker, was also home at the time. The defendant currently has a TPO where he's ordered to have no further contact with his father, Jeffrey Baker. That is 24 CV 004451. They also have that open terroristic threats and acts that pretrial mentioned, 24 CR 002658F. In that case, the defendant has a bond order, which was issued on May 1st, 2024 by you, Judge Law, where he was ordered to have no further contact with his father, stay away from that incident location. There was a condition in the bond where it stated that the bond could be amended if the defendant was released into an MH facility. That bond was a 2K good bond. So at this point, the defendant is currently in violation not only of that TPO, but also of that bond that you issued. Our office has spoken with both of his parents. They basically state that everything is okay now. They're no longer in fear of the defendant. Mr. Baker says he's filed a motion to set aside that TPO. I believe it was filed around October 30th. There is a hearing on that motion in December. They state that they're trying to get the defendant into a program to help him. They state that they want contact with the defendant, irrespective of their wishes at this current time, and the fact that they have filed that motion to get that TPO set aside. At this current moment, those bond conditions and that TPO are still in place, and the defendant is ordered to have a no contact. Therefore, to remain in compliance with those orders that are currently in place, the state's recommendation is that he have no further contact with Jeffrey Baker, as he's already been advised to stay away from that incident location, undergo an MHET. As far as the bond amount, of $4,000 surety bond on the stalking, a $1,000 surety bond on the criminal trespass. I do get that, I mean, the things are okay now. His parents do want to have contact and want him around, but they can't do so in violation of the conditions that are in place. There's clearly something still going on here if he's throwing chairs through glass windows. Both his parents are on the Zoom, so I would ask that you sound for them at this time.
So the TPO in question, that's a 12-month protective order signed by Judge Manning, expires on April 23rd, 2025. This alleged incident date is on September 2nd, 2024. And the state's decided to pursue this as a misdemeanor matter?
We have decided. I'm happy to chime in if you'd like. You know, basically what's clear, the defendant is calling his mother from the jail. There's a pattern and a part of the record in the TPO case, in our open case, that he's out on bond, and today as well, that the parents of this young man aren't on the same page. So while there's an order of the court in place, he's being allowed to have contact and come to that location. That's why the set-aside order has been petitioned here in the TPO. The petition filed by Mr. Baker in his Superior Court TPO matter details numerous instances of violence. That TPO order requires the defendant to undergo a mental health evaluation and a substance abuse evaluation, I believe. We asked the Bakers today about the status of that. This defendant has undergone no evaluation. So regardless of the fact that the family, whether they're on the same page or this is being led by one parent or the other, feels like everything is all right, there's obvious violations and continued violence. just based on an evidence by their police report of damage and being present in the home in September. So there's some concerns, Your Honor, and the state's issue is that we would not have victims in a position to argue that they are being contacted against their will. Mother is receiving, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 jail calls so far today from the jail and speaking to her son. The DA is not going to take an aggravated stalking under those circumstances. However, there needs to be an evaluation of this young man. This family's in crisis and they need some help. Someone is going to get hurt. There's a safety issue.
Mr. Cook, would you like to address this? Oh, I'm so sorry. This is here. Or would you like the alleged victims to speak first?
I'd like them to speak first, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. and Ms. Jeff and Tina Baker, who would like to speak?
I would. I did.
Yes, sir. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, Mr. Baker, before you say anything, you may put your hand down. The order issued by Judge Manning is still valid, alive, and well. The fact that you filed a request to dismiss it has not been granted. All right? So
yes, ma'am.
That order is still alive and well and in effect, and any contact that Jason Baker is making from the jail to either one of you, especially, is a violation of that court order. It's a continuing violation. All right? Technically speaking, this should be a felony aggravated stalking case and not a misdemeanor. All right? No, ma'am. I'm just trying to explain to you how this thing is going to be elevated so much more seriously because Jason Baker is not in compliance with his bond order. All right? Now, Mr. Baker, according to the prosecutor, it seems that you are all trying to heal and move on and try to create a reunion with your son. Would that be correct?
That is correct.
But given his open criminal cases, this is not going to dismiss his cases just because things are getting better with you. And it doesn't help matters that he's in violation of these bond orders. It really doesn't. If you accept those phone calls from him from the jail, you are just making the situation worse because until Judge Manning or another judge sets aside that protective order, he is in continuing violation.
I understand. I would like, can I say something?
Now you may.
Okay. So first of all, I understand totally what you're saying. And I want to make sure, you know, I haven't had no contact with him at all. I did the TPO, not my wife. She's the only one.
TPO applies to the household.
Okay.
You and your immediate family.
Okay. What we were wanting to do was we have a program that he can get into right away that's been approved. And as soon as he can get out, he can go right into that program. And it's a structured program where he can get
Is he going to be an inpatient?
Yes, it's an inpatient.
You need to get with the Victim Advocates Division of the Solicitor's Office and explain the program to them, whether he's been admitted, and then they can make arrangements with you for him to be released and transported immediately to the inpatient facility. And I'm most likely going to require an ankle monitor.
Okay, my wife understands. She has that information. Go ahead.
No, ma'am. You have to go down to the Victim Advocate's Office of the Solicitor General's office and talk with them. It's not going to be done now. The only thing done now is for me to issue a bond on his brand new criminal case.
Oh, ma'am, can I say something, please? No, I was not understanding that he had to stay away from the property because of me. My understanding was, long as he was not in so many yards away from my husband, I did not file the TPO. I think when we met with you or the judge, the judge the last time, I said, I don't have a problem with my son. And I see that he's trying to work. He's been, working. He lost his job because he's been sitting in jail because of traffic violation, that he couldn't pay the ticket. And so he just sat in jail for 30 days because of the traffic violation ticket. And that was just a speeding ticket.
Okay.
But
when you have a moment, you'll read page 2 of the protective order, and it's required to stay away from you and the residents.
But see, I told the judge then.
Ms. Baker, I'm not talking to you anymore. No, I don't want to hear about what you did not understand.
Okay.
If you want to understand your lack of understanding, please read the order.
Okay.
Okay, so going forward, what we need to do is get with the victim advocate and give them the information about the
right.
program.
And if they agree, then it'll be a possible resolution on his bond, as long as we understand how he's going to be transported.
Yes, with the ankle monitor. That'll be great. Who's the people we need to contact and talk to? Do you have documentation or phone numbers or anything for that?
Ms. Mokeke or Ms. Allen, could you please put in the chat directly?
We've spoken with both these individuals today. You can reach out to Ms. Iman Cheney later. That's who you spoke to today.
Yes,
and you might
ma'am.
also want to speak to the defense attorney to get clear about what the requirements are. He'll need to be released to a facility with a bed, and they'll need to be an order in place.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cook, anything else to add?
No, Your Honor, I do know he was, in fact, in Cobb County for about 30 days in regard to a speeding ticket, and I think that's where Fulton picked him up. So, I'm not sure how the order would be crafted, since there really isn't any particular place at this point that we know.
We've released a lot of people from our competency calendars to inpatient facilities. So
I know. I don't have a name, the facility or anything.
That's why we need the parents to work with the victim advocates to be
Okay,
sure.
that's fine.
Okay, yeah,
In the
beyond
meantime,
that, I would leave it to the court.
Anything else to add with regards to bond?
Nothing else, Your Honor.
We do have a name for the facility. We have all the information.
All right, Mr. Baker, you'll be talking to Iman Cheney. Please mute your screen. Please mute your screen. With regards to the stalking family violence, this is going to be a $4,500 surety bond, and the criminal trespass is going to be a $2,500 surety bond. It's going to be a $7,000 surety bond. No contact with Jeff and Tina Baker, to stay away from 2045 Loden Lane in Northwest Atlanta. From this point onwards, if Mr. or Mrs. Baker accept any communication from Jason from the jail, that will be considered a violation of the bond order. If in the event that he is released either to into the community or to a mental facility, he is to be equipped with an ankle monitor, and that monitor will be installed for a period of 12 months. Monitoring fees shall be paid by the defendant. This case is reset to November 14th at 9 a.m., along with this other case, 24 CR 002-658F.
And Your Honor, if you would order a BHET or an MHET, we would appreciate that.
Right. He's to submit himself to a MHET within 7 days of being released. I ordered that before, it didn't happen. So let's see what happens on round 2. All right, folks.
Your Honor.
Yes, Ms. Baker.
Okay, with that surety bond, I'm the only one working. My husband, for health reasons, is not working.
Ms. Baker, if you are working with the Victim Advocate's Office and they are satisfied that he's going to be admitted into a facility, they may agree to a reduction or an amendment of the bond.
Okay.
But until those issues are confirmed, his current bond is going to be $7,000. Do not accept any communication from him, because right now he's not to have any contact with either one of you.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from courtroom 2? No? Okay. Let's go with the calendar, please. Position number 1 is going to be a $7,000 surety bond reset to November 14th, along with this other open case. Position 2 is going to be a $1,000 surety bond reset November 14th. Position 3 is a $3,500 surety bond reset November 14th. Position 4, Calhoun's a 3,000 signature bond to pretrial level 1. Position 5 is a $1,500 signature bond through the jail. Position 6 is a $3,000 surety bond reset to November 14th. 7 is a $1,500 signature bond through pretrial level 1 for the notice. 8 favors is I believe that was a split bond, a total, I couldn't remember the amount. Was it a $4,500 split bond?
It was a total of a $6,000 split bond. Your Honor.
$6,000 split bond. That's right. Here it is. And further notice to November 14th. Position 9, Gaudette, was a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 3 with DBIP.
What's that contact?
I believe it was no violent contact.
And you said level 3?
Yeah. And that was Dixie Baldwin.
Yeah, that's fine.
Position 10, Evan Griffin. And I'm sorry, so many notes on Evan Griffin. Okay, this was a $3,000 surety bond, and that is reset to November 14th. Position 11, Dustin Hems, that's a $500 signature bond through the jail. Position 12 was Norcross. Position 13, Knowlton, that was a $1,500 surety bond reset to November 14th. Position 14 is a $1,000 surety bond reset to November 14th. Position 15, Lucas, that was a $5,000 split bond reset November 14th. Position 16 is a $3,000 surety bond reset to November 14th. Is that confirmed? Okay.
That's correct, Your Honor.
17, Memar is a $1,000 surety reset to November 14th, including his other case 21 CR 003440J. Position 18, Ortiz, is a $2,000 signature bond through the jail. Position 19 is a $3,500 signature bond through pretrial level 2 with a DVIP requirement. Position 20 was released and further notice. 21, Robinson's a $4,500 surety bond, reset November 14th. Position 22 is a $1,500 surety bond, reset November 14th, along with 22 CR 002558Y. Position 23 is a $500 signature bond through the jail. And are we resetting this case to November 14th along? Because he's got a felony hold. Okay.
I thought it was a good bond.
It was a $500 through the jail, but it's going to be reset to the SAP because he has a pending open case.
Thank you.
And a hold.
Okay. Position 24, Denisha Williams, is a 5,000 surety bond, reset November 14th. And position 25, Travion Winfrey, is a $2,000. I can't remember what that was.
2,000 good.
2,000 surety bond, reset November 14th. Oh, and this was a release to Sandy Springs hold only. And then I'll add on Mr. Kincaid, that's a $1,000 surety bond, reset date November 14th. Do we have the right figures? Yeah. All right, folks. It's 5 minutes before checkout time, so try to get as much done.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Take care. Mr. McLean, you good? Yes, got a big smile. Okay.
And I forwarded we got the transfer for
yes, I saw that.
17. Okay.
I'll look at my emails now.